Now, everyone's making it in film and TV, but we don't really know how. Here, we uncover the truth. Welcome to the Your Cinema podcast. Welcome to the Your Cinema podcast today. This is the place where we really explore the truth about film, TV, and theatre, and we hear it directly from those who are leading and smashing it in their areas. We always have amazing special guests, but today, today we've got a figurehead in theatre and I would say creativity in general. He's the associate director of Bush Theatre, director of the award-winning play Red Pitch, which just got transferred to the West End. He directed Drop, the comedy series for Channel 4, and he's someone who really wants to give more to our community. Yes, we've got Daniel Bailey.
Wow, fam. There's so many Daniel Baileys. I'm like, which Daniel Bailey are you talking about right now?
I saw that on Twitter, actually.
Yeah, man. I feel like there's some sort of imposter syndrome, man. I'm just waiting for another Daniel Bailey to come up, step up and claim. Do you know what I mean? Like, taken my life, fam.
But you know what's interesting, right? All I've said is the truth.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's an intro that I can't even, you know what I mean? I don't know if I can even live up to it, but thank you nonetheless.
Wow.
I appreciate it, man.
Well. That starts me off nicely, right? Because now, like, the past year or two have been, like, your career has been amazing, right? Like, building progressively, and then it feels like when you hit the bush, you've hit like another gear and another plateau. But in the past, like 1 to 2 years alone, you've done Red Pitch. I didn't even mention this. You did August in England with Lenny Henry.
Yeah.
Like, you've directed a Channel 4 series, and then Red Pitch has been transferred to the West End. Like, how has the past 2 years been for you?
Do you know what? That actually just sounds like a whirlwind of things that I'd never ever, even now, like through my bio, through any work I've done, I've never actually put those things in order. So this is the first time I'm properly acknowledging what you've just said, which is my life, which is weird, isn't it? Like, I'm actually acknowledging that for the first time. So it feels slightly surreal. And like, the thing that I have to remember is that I can never do any of that stuff alone, man. Like, that is because of the bush. That is because of, do you know what I mean? The people who make great work, like Terrell. Do you know what I mean? That is because of the guys at Mother's Best Child who created Dropped, Justin, Guy, Dan, like Tobes. Like, that's because of all those great, amazing people that have been around me. Do you know what I mean? Lynette Linton, like everyone at the Bush. Like, all that stuff would never have been possible had I not had real amazing people to help support the work that I'm doing and collaborate with. So yeah, man, it's surreal, but it feels quite grounding now having the conversation about it and going, oh yeah, that is a mad 2 years, isn't it?
That's interesting, because it sounds like your humility is speaking to me in a way that it's like, do you know what, that stuff's great, but I've been so about the work that it's like, oh yeah, this. I'm not doing it for the accolades. I'm just doing the work.
Oh man, people that know me, innit? That's always what it's about, man. It's always been about the work, and the way you've interpreted it is really special, because I didn't think of it like that. But yeah, man, when we get to it. I fully immerse myself in the work, and I love people, man. I really do. Like, I really love to see people win. So, even when I was younger, I'd be like, we got to win together. Do you know what I mean? Which is why Red Pitch resonates with me so much, because those boys wanted to do it together. And yeah, man, I've always thought about who comes with me. So, my friends from childhood are the ones that are working with me on Red Pitch. Like, that's my, one of the football consultants, my boy. That's my best friend. Like, so I really mean it when I talk about bringing people with me and coming with me, because I don't want to be alone. It's boring to be alone up there. Do you know what I'm saying? So people come with me, man, and that's why the work is important, because it means that not only are we doing the things that we want to do in the way that we want to do it, but I'm doing it with the people that I love. So yeah,
Wow,
man.
that's so interesting. You know, given given that like you love people so much and you're so about the work,
Yeah.
how have those past 2 years been just as like a I guess a feeling or like a
Mhm.
summary of like I don't know.
I think the best way to describe it for me is like a whirlwind, because
Wow.
you're right in it. You know, when you're in the heart of a whirlwind, like it's moving, and of course, how we understand whirlwinds is like are these destructive things, right? But but I don't know, man. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's when you're in the core of it, you don't get to see all what's going on around you, right? You're just clearing a path. You're just making new. You're just creating brand new. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like right in the core of this thing, like in the heart of it, and it's just happening. And so, yeah, when I step out of it, then I'll be like, maybe that was a bit destructive, or maybe it is actually just about clearing a path and making things new and giving people space and like starting again. So it just depends on how you see it. But I think that that comes with retrospect, innit? And a bit of perspective. So yeah, man, constantly like adjusting that rear view, going, all right, cool. What can I see behind me? Is it bad or is it good? Like so far, so good in it. So I think that whirlwind would be the best thing to describe those last 2 years for me.
I love that. You have given me a fresh perspective on the word whirlwind. And the reason I say that is because I think that, okay, so this is the fresh perspective is that not that it's destructive, but it's made impact.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's always been that's been like my intention from the get go. Is like, how do we make impact in this thing? Like, how do we come into this space and like disrupt it enough for it to still be progressive, but now when it's progressive, it's including us. When I say us, you know what I mean. I'm talking about people that come from the places where we come from, people that
Mhm.
have connection to places other than where we exist right now. And yeah, man, I've always wanted to do that.
Wow. This is, do you know what? Sorry, no, stuff like that excites me. Because yeah, I'm about the same thing.
Exactly.
Like Red Pitch, right, is a
Yeah.
very special play for a number of reasons. But just so I don't digress from the question I'm about to ask, right? Like I'll say this generally. What is it like crafting a show like Red Pitch? Because, the script is one thing and,
Yeah.
the writing is like the emotions and the
Mm,
memories that that show evokes are
mm,
special. That's the best way to put it. But from script to stage, it has to be brought to life, which is your
yeah.
job. So how do you craft that? Like, what is that like? I don't know if it's the process or how does that happen?
Do you know what? Like with Red Pitch, I had 4 years before we put that on the stage. I had 4 years to live with it, like it's lived with me, and even beyond then, it's lived with me. If you think about it, so me and Terrell started 2018 Young Hearts Festival, which was Anne Akin, really brilliant actor, like movement person, director. Had started this company, and we'd started with Young Hearts Festival, 10-minute piece at Lyric, and Terrell had written this really brilliant thing. It was just the scene of these boys, and they were just chatting. It wasn't like loads of forward movement, as in plot and story. But what was really interesting was the dialogue that these lot were having about the ends in which they grew up with. And that
Mm,
just resonated with me so much that I was like, yo, look, Terrell was going to do it anyway. So I just want to make that clear. Like he always says, oh yeah, no, Dan asked me. He was going to make it anyway, right? I just happened, like it just happened. It was a bit of alchemy that meant that we were both in the same place at the same time working on this thing.
mm,
So I had a bit of the engine to go, yo, make sure you make this. And so us coming together, and these are like this is both our stories to an extent, and it's the story of a million people across the globe. You know what I mean? Millions of people across the globe, which makes it so universal. It feels so nuanced and niche that it feels so personal and real and universal, right? So we'd worked on this thing, and we've had different iterations of it. We had another version where we spent like a week on it, and then we presented 35 35 minutes or 40 minutes. It ended up being a little bit longer. And then the pandemic happened, and we spent time going back and forth on a version of it, of the full length version. And then we then decided to program it. So there's a 4 year gap where it's lived with me and it's sat with me and it's in me. Do you know what I mean? So part of that process was just about getting that out of us and just going, it's lived with us now. Now it's about it, and now it's about living with other people. So you kind of get your jigsaw puzzles together. You get real great creatives involved, and you go, okay, that's your responsibility. That's your responsibility. That's your responsibility. That's your responsibility. Light and sound, movement, fight, choreography. Do you know what I mean? Design, like those are all your elements, guys. I have absolute faith that you look can hold on to that and have the responsibility of it, because this is what it is. And just creating that clear vision, and everybody was on board. And it was like, it's about these three young guys, these three young people that are dreaming. We all have dreams. We all connect to that. And so that felt really easy, being able to kind of give that responsibility to everybody else, to share that dream that these also have, these three boys. We have the same thing, just in different industries. So everybody connected to it in such a way and could bring their true selves to it, because we created the space for it. And so it felt quite organic, felt really organic for us to be able to produce it. And I'm super proud of it. And there's a bit of a perfectionist in me, that's always like, oh, there's more to do. But someone said something the other day to me, which is like, good is okay. Like, good is all right. Things don't have to always be perfect in order for you to present it. Good is great enough sometimes. And so that's not me saying that like the play is just good. It's just me saying I don't need to be a perfectionist over this thing. I can get it out and be happy with what we've got out and how it's connected to people in whatever form it is, because it is that universal. So it's been a delight, man. It's really been a delight. And Terrell won't mind me saying this, but he was like, he's the most humblest guy in the world. Trust me, like, quiet. You know him. You've seen him. If you see him about, yeah, like, he's humble. He just knows himself, right? There aren't many people that know themselves to that extent, that they can just be so settled in themselves, and he's that person. But I remember one time he's in a room and he goes to me, yeah, Dan, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of do want the 4 stars, or 5 stars. I kind of want the 4 and the 5 stars,
Yeah.
Like, I just said to him, and I was like, yeah, all right, fam, don't worry, I'll make sure that we get that. And he was honest about it. Like, he was
Oh,
just honest. Like, he doesn't ask for anything. He's not a man that asks for anything. Like, he does things. He's independently. He's self, like, motivated, whatever. But he just goes, yeah, I wouldn't mind those 5 stars, the 5 and 4 star. Like, but I wouldn't mind the 5 stars. So that extra bit of pressure was really useful.
oh man, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, man. But we push each other, right?
Mhm.
So he pushes me, I push him. And we, iron sharp as iron.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
That's that's amazing. So like, given that process, right, of it sitting with you for 4 years, which is really nice, because a lot of the times there isn't that flexibility, or whether it comes from like having to hit a deadline because of corporate partners that you're working with, or even
Yeah,
just personal, like, no, I need to get it done by this time. So it's amazing that you allowed of it to sit with you for so long. Well, you and
yeah,
Terrell.
yeah.
But what would you say is like the most difficult part of like doing a play in general, for you?
You never know. You kind of never know whether it's gonna do the thing that you want it to do or not. I think that's always the case. Like, the brilliance is, we had some early reviewers, and they would, like, some of these guys will know, there's some early reviews, and they weren't as understanding of what the play was trying to do and what we were trying to do, because in those first moments when we share the play, in those first previews, we're going to chop and change. Like, preview 1 is going to be totally different to what preview 3 will be totally different to what preview 4 or 5 will be, because the whole point is, you can't really make a play for people without people being in the space. So Do you know what I mean? Once you've got people in the space, it shapes the play. Like in any industry, you know what I'm saying? You can't come into an industry and the key people that you're either trying to sell a product to or you're trying to bring into this world or whatever. So if I'm trying to sell you this bottle, for instance, yeah, like I can't just sell you the bottle without consulting you and like, you know, your lip around the rim and like how holding it is, or like whether it can fit into your bag or whether it makes sense to you. Like you're not gonna, do you know what I'm saying? So it's the same with plays. Like I can't be like, oh, I'm gonna get a sold out show and I'm just gonna make this thing without ever really consulting the audience. So those previews are for me to consult the audience, and I'm really interested. Like I said, I love people. People always change things, so it's really difficult. Is what I'm saying. The long and short is it's difficult until you've got it in front of people and you're like, does this serve the purpose? Is it saying the thing that I want it to say? Is it saying the thing that we all want it to say? Does it feel clear? Does it resonate? Does it evoke? Does it educate? Does it, you know, there's all these kind of like things that you're constantly thinking about, and you never know until you get to an audience. So it's, I guess to an extent, it's challenging, but I relish the challenge, man. I love that. I love being able to go, all right, cool, I'm presenting this now. I'm ready. We're ready. Hopefully you'll get something out of it. Um, yeah, whatever comes of it, comes of it. So it's challenging, man, but it's also the most rewarding thing. Like unlike film, you get an instant reaction. So whether that is an ego-driven gratification that you want, or whether that is a humbling of sorts,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yep,
you're
yep,
like,
yep, yep.
maybe my ideas are not good, or if it's actually, you know, it's to honor someone or to honor something. You get that instantly, you know, and like you kind of steer from there, and I think that is something that you just can't bank on. You just, you know.
I love that. I love that. Now you touched on something previews, right? And you were breaking
Yeah,
this down to me the other day.
yeah,
What is a preview screening, and like could you elaborate on that
yeah,
process of how a play can like how they can actually be used to
use,
change a play, because
yeah.
that is like I didn't know that.
Yeah. So look, how it goes is you've got your rehearsal period, right? You have your period of R&D and that sort of stuff. So R&D is research and development, and usually you might be looking at maybe the language of the play, or maybe music within the play, or maybe you're trying to sort out the plot dramaturgically. You have those kind of periods, right? And sometimes those can be big elaborate things, or sometimes those can just be you with the writer one-on-one and the dramaturg, or a script editor or whatever, just kind of working the kind of knotty bits out. And then you go into your rehearsal period, and usually that's a 4 week period. And if you're lucky, you get a 5 or 6 week period. And if you're unlucky, like I have until Red Pitch, I think Red Pitch, not even, yeah, Red Pitch the first time was my first 4 week rehearsal period, and I've been in this game for a long time. So trying to get stuff over 3 weeks is like, but yeah. So you have your rehearsal period, and then after that you have your tech period. Yeah, your technical rehearsal. So bringing the lights into the situation, bringing the sound into the situation, bringing video or projection into the situation. You know, all the different elements that you've worked with, the design, how that works, and trying to really figure that out. So it's never really about you or your vision at that point in time. Oh, I mean, it is about your vision, but it isn't about what, you know, you can't change loads of things. You're trying to work out the technical aspects of this piece. And then you have your preview, and then you have your preview period if you're lucky. When I was in Brum, you'd get one preview, and then the next day you'd be pressing. So that
Whoa.
piece had to be ready by that point. It's like going into an editing suite and going, yep, that first edit needs to be ready. By that second edit, that's it. You're locked. That picture's locked. So in theater, it's pretty similar, right? Like, because it's a living form, like things will change and shift, like depending on people's mood. Like that's just how it is. But and that's the beauty of it as well. But when you get to your first preview, you're kind of experimenting and going, do you know what? Does this sound language feel right? Does this light and language feel right? Is it telling the story that I want it to tell? Is it supplementing the story? Is it a hindrance to the story? Is this set piece that we're trying to do, like in August England, we had a rotating carpet, and it's like, is this a hindrance, or is this actually aiding the storytelling? Like, how much time are we going to spend on doing that and perfecting that? So you're working out all those different things, and then you get to that point where you kind of got to lock the show because all your creative team's going to go, and you don't have the lighting designer or the sound designer or even the set designer around, or the costume or the movement director or the fight coordinator there at that point to lock the show down. So you need to lock it, and then the press come. And so what happened is press came before we had locked the show, before we had discovered what the show was, and they'd be like, okay, and we kind of send them a note and go, we'd ask you not to come during previews, but if you want to come, come. And they'd come during previews, and they were like, yeah, we don't get it. And it's like, well, of course you don't get it because we don't fully get it yet.
Wow.
Tomorrow we will, however, you know, and then you got to kind of deal with that. But yeah, that's the process of like previews and why if stuff changes, you shift always. You're like, okay, now I've got 10 people in the room, whereas before it's just been me and the actors and my stage management team. Now I've got 15 people in the room that are going to give me feedback, and that will go, yeah, I'm sat over there. I'm sat in the far side of the auditorium, and I don't quite understand, or that thing's not reading to me over there, and there's going to be 100 people over that side. You've got to change it. You've got to shift it. You know, you don't have the joy of going, I've got my camera here and I am purposely going to show you this close up here because I want you to really invest in the emotion of this character. You're like, how do I create a close up for, if you're working near Olivier, like the National, how am I going to create a close up for 1,000 people? Like, how am I going to create this kind of tracking feeling of emotion, like moving? How am I going to create that to an audience of 500 in a massive venue? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you just got to work it out, and previews do that for you. Like, can that person over there, do they get the joke? Can that person over on the left side, do they get the joke? No, they don't get the joke because they didn't see that. They didn't see his facial expressions. All right, cool. Let's center him center stage then, and everyone can see his facial expressions. Bam, that's it. You know, it's all of that. It's all of that thinking and all of that prep work that you do. But like I said, you can't do it without people.
Yeah,
person,
100%. So, is there ever a time that critics come? No. So sometimes critics will come during previews, but does that mean that they actually write reviews before press night, like before you guys have really figured out the show? Because it's one thing to come there, but to release a review to the public.
Oh yeah, of course. But their priorities are the readership, and their priorities are we've got look, if it's a great preview, then you're lucky because actually what happens is you then get an influx of people coming in based on that person who they trust, or that review that they trust, and they're like, oh yeah, like I don't know, let's say they serve 100,000 people, and that 100,000 people turns into 20 sales per day or 5 sales per day. It can work really well for you, But on the other side, on the flip side, if you're still working stuff out, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, and we came in a preview, so he's still working it out. They're going, we've seen the show's not up to the standard, and that could ruin you, But it's just a game. Like I've never whether critics ever listen to this or not, but I've never made work with like, oh yeah, I really care about what the critics say, because my biggest critics are like my people from ends, like the people I went to school with. My mum's only seen like 2 of my shows. She's only ever seen Red Pitch and August in England. I know she's seen 3, sorry. But I've done many more. She's only seen those 3. And so she's like, I don't get it. Fam, I'm finished. I'm bowled over. I'm done. I'm like, whoa. Like, you know what I mean? Someone's in the Guardian writing about something because someone's in the Times writing about something. I'm like, you don't get it, man. Whatever, man. You don't even get the cultural references. Go away. Bye. My mum don't get it. I'm like, oh, God. All right, cool. You know what I mean? Now I'm like, my son's like my biggest critic. He'll be like, yeah, Dad, I don't really get that, I'm like, maybe I don't get it enough then. Because if I can't explain it to you, then I don't get it enough, That thing that Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it enough. Like that's it. I'm paraphrasing, but that stuff is stuff that I think about often.
I love that because, right, I came across something like a clip where Rinze Kenny, it's something that we recorded actually, but
Mm.
he said the same thing you said just now, right? He said that when they were doing Misty,
Mm.
um, like he said he doesn't read reviews,
Yeah.
but the reviews that people that he trusted and in his circle came back and said were that the critics were saying, "Yeah, cool, the play's good," but they didn't actually get it. And I think what he meant was they were writing, "Yeah, it's good, and this is what the play's about," and they were like, "This that's not what the play's
It's
about."
not. It's an opinion.
Hmm. That is such a double-edged sword because on one hand, this is the balance, or this is what sounds like the balance is then, yeah,
Mm.
cool, we want the 4 or 5 stars,
Yep.
but we focus on making great work. That's the focus, and this is a nice to have kind of thing.
Always, but it's, like, it's important to say the two things work in tandem, right?
Mm.
Like, if critics don't have nothing to write about, they ain't got no jobs. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep,
If
yep.
we don't make the show that if they don't give us the stars or they don't give us the critique, then we don't have the audiences. So
Mm.
both things work in tandem, and I think that's really useful as a playwright, as a director, as a maker, producer, whatever it is. Working in that field, it's really useful to understand the job role. And what I always ask of critics is to understand the job role. So I'm always about offering people the opportunity to come into the space, come into the early parts of our rehearsal and understand what it is that we're trying to do. Because you might not fully get it on watching it that first time, but maybe that little bit of insight that you got from week 2 might really inform what you think about it when you see it in preview 4, when you see it at press night. So I'm really about that, and that isn't just for critics. That's also, I have this thing about the critical imagination, which is about us as artists thinking critically about work, so we can articulate why we don't like something, or why something doesn't resonate for us, or what we'd perhaps do differently. I'm more interested in what people could do differently. So if I have an assistant, I want to know what you can do differently. I don't want to know what you can do that's me. Like, that's not why you're here. You're here to challenge me slightly. You know what I mean? Like, challenge what it is and to think differently about it. So, I want people to come into the room as early as possible. Like, I think I've invited you. I've said you can come into our room when you're ready.
Hey, what room? Charlie,
Yeah, when
I'm
we
there.
when we go up to Soho Place, you're more than welcome, because then you get to see the process behind it, right? And I'm like interested in demystifying all of that, so people don't go, "Oh, right, this is an industry that I don't even." Nah, fam, this is just like every other industry. You put in the time, you put in the work. You'll make it. You'll make do. So I'm interested in demystifying it, and I like that, and I like critics or people, artists coming in and maybe offering an opinion or having conversations or asking questions. I'm really interested in asking questions, and like, what questions do you have after seeing that, or after me having a conversation with such and such, or with this actor, or with the lighting designer, or with the stage management. So I'm really interested in that. So it demystifies it, and also um, gives people a way to think. So, they're not just watching stuff and absorbing stuff. They're like, actually, no, I'm thinking about this critically. Oh, now you shifted me into the moment, in a moment where I'm just thinking about it, or I'm feeling this emotionally. But when I step back from it, I'm like, oh yeah, that moment there, that moment, the reason why I felt that way was because of this. I can now articulate that. Yeah.
You know what? I just want to say that you're very important for our industry. And the reason I say that is because there's a there's an unwavering commitment to creativity and expressing our stories, as well as your creativity, which isn't limited to just the ends. But
Mm.
it's like it's not the reason why I think you're so important, right, is because there's that commitment to stating certain things,
Yeah.
right, when it comes to us, but then also being open enough to say, this is what I think it is.
Mm.
How did you receive that? How are you interpreting it? Oh, cool. Da, da, da. And then sprinkling and adding to it's like, it's not about me. I'm a facilitator to this.
Always, always, always. That's exactly how I feel. And everyone's like, "You're a director." I'm like, "Yeah," but it's a collective vision, actually. Do you know what I mean? And it's about facilitating. It's always about facilitating people to do the best work that they can do. Like I never employ someone with the thought that they can fail to make me look good or whatever. I'm always about, please, man. I beg, when you come here, let's create the best thing that you possibly can. Let me give you the tools that you need, all the tools that I can, the resources that I have, in order for us to all make our best work, man. Because I shine, you shine, we all shine.
Do you know what? It's deep. I'm stuck on this point because you, as a director, that's not what we see.
Mm,
We're the word isn't taught in a
yeah.
direct way, but is very subliminal, right? And kind of direct. But we are taught that directors are the stars of the show. But like, I guess one thing that, well, I take loads of things from the Bible. But one thing I take from the Bible is that, when Jesus said, like, to be the best, you have to be like, you have to serve in it.
Have to, man.
And it's like directors have to direct the vision, which is all of the departments. But to do that, you have to put them in a position to do their best work. So, like,
Yep.
exactly what you're doing, you have to serve them. So, like, cool, I'm bringing you into this space
Yep.
for you to shine
Yep.
towards the that's
Yep.
deep. Because I don't hear, not that directors are egotistical. Maybe it's the people that are interviewing them, but it's like, even myself, I guess, like, we put
Mm.
directors on the, maybe because you can't have all the 100 people involved in one play. Maybe that's what it is. But you're very clear on, like, even from the beginning, like, nah, this is, yeah, that's amazing, but it's
Yeah.
actually because of all these people. That's
Like,
interesting, Graham.
broski, that's how we were raised, right? And that's what I love about, like, black culture in particular. That's what I love about, like, I grew up in a state called St. Ras, Northwest London.
Oh wow.
When I It's right by the IKEA. People that know in it. So when I grew up there, and my grandma lived in Harlesden and then moved back to Jamaica. So when I grew up in that place, the people that raised me weren't just my mum. My mum was a single mum raising three boys. Do you know what I mean? We were like 7 years apart. We were all little terrors, whatever.
Yeah.
But the people that raised me was like, a Rasta woman from down the road who had like seven children. Do you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
intelligence beyond, the wisdom that she held, like, I absorbed that. Do you know what I mean? Ethiopians in the ends, fam, that would come in here from civil war, fam, I absorbed that. Somalis, bro, who were like, "Yo, I'm from Somaliland," and I was like, "Ain't it the same thing?" Nah, bro, they taught me, bro. I absorbed that. Do you know what I'm saying? I was going back to Jamaica, like seeing how my cousins and them that were living, and I was like, "Rah." To the Western world, people are seeing you look as super poor, but I'm seeing you look as super rich, fam. The freedom to get up and do things, the independence, the intelligence that you lot have, yeah. Like for me, that's a massive benefit. And I was like, Eastern Europeans, like white working class, like these are all the worlds that I was straddling, right? I was like a Venn diagram. I was like, oh yeah, that intersects, that intersects. I didn't have the words to describe that as my experience when I was young,
Mm.
but I just gravitated to all these different things, like the nerds, fam. I was with the nerds, bro, talking about manga. You get me? I was in church, bruv, talking to the. You get me? Talking to everyone that was in church. But I was also with the Muslims, bruv, who were like, "Yo, come over here. This is the religion for you." Do you know what I mean? So all of these. But then I was with the hustlers and the man them that was on the roadside, and like them men were giving me wisdom. It was all wisdom, bro. So like all of that was like everybody was shining in their own different thing. And I was like, just take that into whatever thing I do.
Like a
Like,
big melting pot.
yeah, bruv. So, like, these things for me are the most natural of things. Like, I'm so happy that it's not as egotistical as it was before. I don't know,
Oh.
maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. But when I came into it, I didn't, that ego didn't exist. Like, I just wanted to create stuff and make stuff with people and play, and like that was my way of learning. So I wanted to share that with everybody else. I just learned through play. You know what I mean, plays. We play all the time. So it's just all it's yeah, man. I just wanted to bring that to the I wanted to bring that to the forefront. I wanted to be maybe not mainstream, but I wanted to occupy a space where people can see, man, and go, oh yeah, like I'm actually more intelligent than him. I genuinely want people to be like, oh yeah, like, I'm more intelligent than him, so I must be able to do that. Or people to be like, oh, actually, I'm from the same parts that he's from, so I can do that. And it's really just access, isn't it? It's just like, if I can't physically give you the jobs, I can at least show you the way that makes it accessible for you. Your journey is going to be different from mine, but I did it in it, so you must be able to. And it's just that simplest of things, isn't it? You're like, you're looking at people and you see the best footballers, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, how can you make that look so easy? But that's where my need and my want and ob- my objective comes from. Like, I want to do what you do, or I want to do a version of that. I want to
Yeah.
make it look easy. Yeah, man. But know that there's still hard work in it. There's still a
Yeah.
lot of hard work that needs to be done.
Well, that segues nicely, right? Because um the success, as I've said, has been back to back. And it's been bigger and bigger. Like that's yeah, it's been back to back and getting bigger and bigger, right? Um what d- in I think the word is despite that, or
Mm,
in spite of that,
mm.
in spite of that back to back success, what have like really been or actually been some of the like frustrating times for you during all of this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because like right now, the most frustrating thing is that we're, w- I have to be political here. I'm not gonna lie.
All good.
We're in a place politically where artists are being silenced, where artists are being coerced and forced into a really narrow, really narrow lanes. So it means the work that is being praised and the work that is coming out is very much of the elites, maybe. And if it's not the elites making the work, they're making you make the work like the elites. It isn't, we're stagnant, fam. Like, we're really stagnant. And that isn't just about money and resource, but
Mm-hmm.
that's also about how things are getting programmed, particularly in theatre. It just means that there isn't much experimentation. It means that there isn't much room for growth. It means that you're getting one type of thing just in many different guises. It means that there's just no true creativity like is happening right now, and that is leading to us just being stagnant. So the most frustrating thing for me right now is we've got a government who don't care about art and are doing everything that they possibly can to silence it and to make it palatable and
Wow.
and and um, and really diluted. Like, that's what they're trying to do, and it's because they're really scared that there is a whole new generation that are listening, that are interested in this thing, that are wanting to push that government out, um, and that can see them, and that can see them for what it is. Like, you see when you're doing like a video, and yeah, we all laugh. It's fantastic. It's funny. It's brilliant.
Mm,
But there's a serious message in there. His work
mm,
is serious. Do
mm,
you know what I mean? And like, if they could shut down these socials, I'm sure they would, but they
mm,
can't. And so, where else can we do that? Where else can we make those changes? All right, cool. Let's pull funding from arts, because then that means that all of those smaller spaces that were getting funded they're not getting that art. So that means we don't need to hear that. That discourse over in that corner doesn't matter. I can still work, it means that we can't work on our green policies. It means that we can't make work that feels more ecologically justifying. Like there's so many things in it, but it all starts from these little moments of like, let's just take that away, let's pull. And it happened with us when we think about it. I was a youth worker.
Mm-hmm.
2010, I got made redundant. I mean, it was part of it was actually the best. Like without sounding like an idiot, but some of it was the best thing for me because it meant that I jumped straight back into theatre and I was like so committed and I was so determined to make that thing work.
Yeah.
But at the time, they got rid of the youth provisions. You know, every Wednesday I was teaching young men who were at risk of going back into prison how to cook, just how to cook. I was doing drama stuff with them, but the things that they wanted to know was just like basic home skills. They're going in pen, they don't know how to cook. So I was teaching them how to cook.
Wow.
That provision's gone. Them are on the road again. Where do you think they're going on that Wednesday? Where do you think they're going on that Thursday? They're not playing football in a cage with me. They're not in the kitchen cooking with me and then cooking for the rest of the people from the same community and then dishing out food and doing 3-course meals. They're they're running up and down on the roadside. And you just take away those little things and you start to see the impact and then you know? So similar, man. That's the thing that frustrates me at the moment. And that's the thing that's probably like on my head right now. And that might change again in a month, 6 months, 1 year. Who knows?
Wow, that's thanks for the transparency, man. I'd say that's really difficult to hear. And I guess I can only understand a portion of how it's really making you feel. But I feel like that's amplified somewhat to a degree because as you were saying those things,
Mm.
one thought that was going on in my mind is that like, but the bush stands for everything that you've just said that you want to see.
Yeah.
But then if you're feeling it and you're at like, let's say one of the most innovative theaters in the country, what work could you be making if that wasn't the case? Which is
Exactly. And I think that's the right question to ask. Like, what could we be doing had we been given the right resources? What would we be doing had we had the, a really strong infrastructure and security for people and points where people can grow and so like even our internal staff, like what happens once they get to management level? Can we get them to head of level? Like all of these things, like the stagnation it doesn't exist just in a building, it doesn't exist in a microcosm, it exists in this country. Like this country's stagnant, like economically we're stagnant. There's a brain drain happening right now. People are moving because they're like, why am I still here? There's nothing that can fulfill me here. And we're getting brain drains in every industry, and we're going, why is that happening? Because I can go Singapore and do much better. I can go to Dubai and do much better. I can go back to the continent, Africa, and do much better. I can go many different places and do much better. So, yeah, man, it's funny, innit? It's funny, but like it feels like they're not able to see it themselves. But yeah, the bush is doing incredible work, and I'm saying that, and I'm also trying to really remain humble. We're doing amazing work because we've
yeah.
got amazing people here, and we've got wonderful supporters, and our audience is like shift and change all the time. But there's a core set of people that believe in the stuff that we do, and
Yeah.
that just keeps spurring us on. And energy, man, it requires energy.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Now, given your position as like director, mentor, figurehead,
Oh,
just important, amazing creative, like a lot of people do look up to you, right? Especially because you're so welcoming as well. I don't understand how you do that, but it's your heart. So, when you want people to DM you, it's all for you. But like, given that, right? I guess that Superman thing of like, who's your support system when things get on top for you? Because you're
I've got
giving out so much to
I've
people.
got family, man. So do you know what I mean? I've got a really lovely partner. I've got a son. Like I've got all my boys around. I got um the people that have supported me from the get go. I've got people around me that really help. And then like I said, within the works, I always create like small worlds, right? So those people they're not just there for that moment. They come back. Like you might see the same lighting designer in something else, or I might shift it and change it, and there's another sound designer in something. But they're all part of the tribe. You get me? So
Yes.
for me, that's what holds me. That's what holds me down. Just so much love, man. There's so much people that are out there
That's
that I've
good.
given love to, and they reciprocate and they give it back, and so that keeps me going. But I'm tired, bro. Like don't get me wrong, I'm knackered, and I'd much rather be spending more time. Like it's half time now, you know what I mean? I'd much rather be at home with little man, like in the park. But this is also the sacrifice. Like I'm in the bush now, and this is the sacrifice that we make to an extent, and I want to be able to make less sacrifices like that. You
I get
know?
you. I get you. Yeah, the tension of balancing
Yeah.
both. Wow, wow. Um, well, given your commitment to your creativity and creative purpose, right?
Hmm.
Red Pitch is now at the West End. How did
Hey.
that happen? What's the mechanics of getting a
Oh
West End
God.
transfer?
It still happens. It feels like it's a big lottery sometimes. Honestly, I think I have to be honest in that there's part of it. I'm gonna admit this. Part of it for us was we engineered it a little bit. So what had happened is obviously you're making a show. You have such a great feeling about it. It feels great to you. Everyone feels good. We get in front of people. People enjoy it. They respond to it. We keep going through previews. Cool press. Press is pretty cool. Press wasn't great, but it was really good, but it wasn't great.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but what what really worked for us is that we had an audience that started with us from 4 years ago. So there was people that saw it 4 years ago and that stuck with it all the way through. And so it started to create a buzz for itself, it created its own audience. And I was really confident when we started programming. Like one of the first things I said in programming is like, I don't need to worry about audiences for this. And everyone was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I don't need to worry about audiences. It's already got an audience. And everyone's like, but it's never been on. Like, it's never been on in its full sense. But I was like, there's something about it that people, again, like resonate with. So I'm very confident that the people that came to see it at Lyric when it was a 10-minute version will come
Mm.
again. And the people that came to see it at Oval House, we had like 3 sharings of it, like 50, 60 people that came and saw it each time there would come and see it again, and then they would tell their people, and they would tell their people, and so I had a real acute understanding that there was already an audience for it, right? And so we put it on here, and that first week was all right, you know, middles it was okay, and then by the end, before the end of the run came, we were sold out. Um, and so that already gives us the kind of impetus to go like, do we bring it back?
Mm.
And at the time, I'm not going to say who the company were, but um, there was a big organization that had promised us that they were going to take it.
Mm.
Right? There's a few stipulations that I had on it. Personally, I didn't want it to be part of a festival. I didn't want it to be like, there was some things floated like, does it go on late at night? I was like, nah, it's not. It's not a B-side story. I
Mm.
wasn't really interested in that. And those are the stipulations that I had, and some of the suspicions that I had. Anyway, it got pulled. They didn't do it. Um, for whatever reason. But we had a really unwavering support of it and knew that it needed to be seen by more people.
Mm.
And so actually Lynn and Oscar, who's our producer, Linton's the artistic director of the Bush.
Mm.
Oscar is our senior producer at the Bush. Um, Lauren Clancy, who's left, was our executive director. All had this brilliant idea of like bringing it back. So me
Mm.
and Terrell spoke about it. We said we'll bring it back for a shorter run. We'll kind of drive the interest in it, and then we'll see what happens. So like, this is part of me being transparent, right?
Mm. Mm.
Fam, I was selling crisp in school. I know this feels like a segue, but bear with. I was
Oh,
selling
man,
crisp
I mean,
I was selling crisp in school. I was selling hula hoops, right? I go and buy a 6 pack and they'd be like six and we'll give you 12, or buy a 12 pack and we'll give you 18, right? And I would go and buy that 18 pack of packet crisp. And I'd go and buy some chewits and I'd go into school, right? And I'd shop all my crisp and chewits. And I'd get like £5 a day. I stack that £5. Go back, go buy myself a pair of Reeboks. And then people started selling crisp. And I was like, okay. So everyone's doing this now. I can go on Millicent and do Tony Soprano, or I can go, I can go, or I can be smart, fam, and I can start offering things that people don't have. Just a little package deal. Buy crisp and the chewits for this price. Undercut, undersell them lot. People come. So what I'm saying is, I have an entrepreneurial brain.
mm-hmm,
Not all the time do I put it to use
mm-hmm.
because I've got so many things going on. But when I think on something and I go, okay, this is an idea and this is how we do it and this is how we execute it, it's the same scenario. So, like, I've spoken about this since the beginning. Like, I've taken one thing from that learning over there of selling hula hoops and chewits and coming to theatre, and people are like, what's hula hoop and chewits got to do with you selling a show? Well, part of it was we recognize we have an audience, and if we get the hype right, if our marketing's on point, which our marketing team is freaking fantastic, right? They're
Yeah.
brilliant, big them up. If we get the marketing right, if we get the hype right, there's a psychology, and the psychology isn't for my people then, because we gave away like 1,000 free tickets,
Mm-hmm.
more than that even.
Mm-hmm.
The marketing team will kill me. We gave away a bunch of free tickets to people who couldn't afford,
Mm-hmm.
to schools and community groups that were about us, um trying to better ourselves. We gave it a number of really brilliant incentives, right? Who came to see the play for free.
Mm-hmm.
But the other side of the psychology was, we've got people in that higher echelon who can't quite access this culture.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're giving it to them and we're sharing it with them, actually, I'd say, instead of, because we're not handing it over, we're sharing it, right? We're
Yeah.
sharing that culture. Then there's going to be a hype. There's going to be a psychology of like the people who don't necessarily access this having the access to it and feeling very much a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's what that second outing of it done. It was really about us bringing in the producers and bringing in people who could see the potential of it, but hadn't really experienced it, and now suddenly they're experiencing it with audiences that
Yeah.
look like them.
Wow.
So the demographic changed slightly in the second time round.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We had more middle class people.
Mm-hmm.
We had more people with with funds in excess, like
Yeah.
disposable income, who'd come and see the show and pay slightly, a slight different price.
Mm.
And again, that a lot of that thinking is down to our development and our marketing team. But
Yeah.
these are all things that we considered and thought of, and was like, all right, cool. And if we can do that, then the show can sell, and it means that we can still keep hold of our core demographic and audience, but yet bring new people into that experience. And yeah, man, it worked. Like, but we are not producing it ourselves.
Mm.
We've got three brilliant producers. We've got Choo Choo's come on, he's been an advocate and wanted it to happen, and Adam Kenwright, who came in and saw it and has a footballing background and was like, yo, this is an incredible bit of work, and it is really universal, and he fully understood it. And we've got Nika Burns, who runs Soho Place, who also completely believed in it and saw how it can transfer to her venue. So there were three producers initially that came on board and fully understood the vision of it and could see it. And for the first time, we're like, yeah, let's take that. We can make it a success in the West End. So yeah, man, that's kind of like the process, and that's me breaking it down. I don't know if I'd
Mm.
ever be able to break it down. Maybe in a book at some point, but that was the process and the thinking. And look, the truth is, it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
It was
I hear
so
you. Yeah.
close. It was so close. Many a times for not working. There were other producers that were like, nope, doesn't make financial sense for us, or doesn't make commercial sense for us, and that's
Mm,
cool. But the people that believed in it, yo, I've got a debt to repay.
yeah. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Um, so given all of this amazing, amazing stuff that's been happening, right?
Yeah,
We were speaking earlier, and you this year you would have been at the bush for 5 years, right? Which is,
yeah.
it's a big number in terms of like milestones, right? What's the next 5 years looking like for you?
Oh my God, you're asking me a question. Oh my gosh,
And
wow.
in an ideal world, yeah.
In an ideal world,
Mm.
if I can do blue sky thinking, in
Yeah.
an ideal world, I would um be here and elsewhere. I'd be like,
Mm.
I'd still be making work in the UK, but I'd really love to be in. I'd really love to be in like Ghana. I'd really love to see what the scene is like in Jamaica. I'd love to be in all of those diasporic spaces, Canada, and be making work for us really, and those that are really interested in us and the culture. Like that's where I'd love to be in 5 years. What that looks like and how that looks is very different. But I love both forms of film and also theater. Like those are the two forms that I really love in TV as well. But I feel like each project determines its form. Some projects are like audio, and I'd love to work in audio. I'm hoping at some point, fingers crossed, that I would be doing an audio piece soon. But those are, yeah, that's where I'd want to exist professionally,
Mhm.
and I guess personally, I just you know I'd love to have a place somewhere else. I do have a place somewhere else, but it's yet to be built fully. But
Mm.
I would love to have a place somewhere else and just be like, yo, I come here and I work, and then I go there and I work, but I
Yeah.
also live, you know? So that's the hope really, is that I can exist in a couple of different spaces and be able to do the same thing I'm doing here across the world, man.
I love that. That's amazing, man. And long may it continue. Bro, this
Yeah.
has been so insightful. Thank you. It's always a pleasure catching up with you and chatting with you. And yeah, man, keep flying the flag because you're pioneering in a different way. Um, I don't think you even realize. I even to, 'cause when you said Ghana, I'm thinking, yeah, what even is the theater landscape in even the media like really what it is just like that's big
Yeah.
thinking, and it's not far fetched either, really,
Oh no,
when I
man.
think about it. So thank you.
Nah, man, it's been an absolute pleasure, bro. It's absolutely been a pleasure. You've allowed me to think, and I'm gonna go and do a bit of thinking myself.
Amazing, amazing.